All right, well, welcome back to another episode of LorcanaChats. I am Chris, aka Questing for Lore, and with me today I have both of the hosts of the Hobbies and Happiness. I guess channel. It's not really a podcast anymore, right? I think at one point it used to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, we still do the podcast, but
Yeah.
that just came back recently. We do a whole lot of stuff, or we
All
we
right.
used to do a whole lot of stuff. I like to say I'm the happiness, Jim's the hobby. I don't know. Like we just
All
I'm we're
right.
I
he's an
thought I
H,
was
I'm an H.
both.
I don't know. Sometimes you're both, sometimes I'm both, sometimes neither. I don't know. It ebbs and flows. It's a roller
Yeah.
coaster.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, Dan, Jim, you want to kind of introduce yourselves a little bit for those that may not be familiar?
Oh
Sure.
man.
Jim, age before beauty. So
What?
I don't know how that's supposed to go. When you
I'm,
say
I'm
age,
like
so
I'm like Dan, you're older.
yeah, but the younger one before beauty. So
That's not how
it's not
age
how that
before
works. It's
beauty
not how it
works.
works. No? Okay. All right. Hi. Hey guys. Hi. I'm Dan. I'm one half of the Hobbies and Happiness. I'm the H, Jim's the squared. I don't know. So we're something like that. We've been doing card game content for a while. And yeah, so that's me. I'm Dan. This is him. Go ahead, Jim.
Hi, I'm Jim. I'm the other H in Hobbies and Happiness. And yeah, we've been doing this for quite some time now.
Hmm.
Specifically now, just talking about Lorcana. It's
Yeah.
been a very wild journey these last couple of years, and I'm super glad at where we ended up at.
Hmm. I'm
Nice.
glad that we finally landed on a game, and like it's fun. It's fun doing one thing and like doing one game,
Yeah,
especially when it's a TCG,
yeah.
because staying
Mhm.
on top of one TCG is already hard enough. You
Mhm.
add
Oh
in
yeah.
all this other stuff. I don't. I You can't. I can't do it. I don't have the time.
And I'm also glad that it's a competitive game, not like any other Disney card games. I don't know. I'm not pointing fingers, man.
It's not like let's just collect pretty cards kind of game. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Villainous. Sorry. Sorry about that.
So y'all been doing the show and everything for I think we said like 3 or 4 years so far,
Mhm.
and it's kind
Oh,
of like evolved over time. Like you're saying, y'all started out with like it was multiple games, like tabletop
yeah.
games and
Yeah.
TCGs and all sorts of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And and then started up the kind of the podcast side of things, and then after a while it was like, okay, we're going to, kind of retire the podcast for a little bit. And then there was the let's focus on Lorcana. So, I'm always interested in hearing from my guests kind of their introduction, their origin story to Lorcana and kind of how they came to the game.
Hmm. Hmm. So, I can at least touch on like how we started. I think so. Jim and I met it's a long time ago at our local game store, which is since closed, called Grapple Games. Jim was working there. You were working there at the time, weren't you, Jim? I think you were when I started going.
Probably.
If you
Probably.
weren't working there, you started working there shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
But that's where we met and formed a connection. And then like we had a really good group, a community at Grapple. But the store ended up closing right around COVID, not because of COVID, but it just happened to be for the
It was
owner.
perfect timing
It
for
was
him.
perfect timing for him, literally,
Yeah, yeah, I'm
because
sure.
because he
You
asked
have that kind of
because
business
he
where you
asked
have
Jim.
to have people in. Yeah.
Jim, didn't he ask you to buy it if you wanted to buy it?
Yeah, yeah, he did. He pretty much was going to be like teaching me how to essentially run the whole operation
Yeah.
and set it up to where I would purchase it. Yeah.
Hmm. But you didn't have the money, did you?
No.
So when Grapple closed, I was working my previous job at the time. And so I asked Jim to come over to my office and we talked because I had told him, like, dude, it's been, I think it was a year or so. I think it was about a year or so
Pretty
after
much.
Grapple closed, roughly,
Yeah.
where we were like, dude, we need to do something because we had a great community at Grapple, and the
Hmm.
store was great. And there were not a lot of really other good shops around our area at the time. We go to a different one now and it's great, but I don't really think the community was the way it was back then. So we were
Hmm.
like, all right, we need to do something. And so the reason we came together was we originally, and we still do to an extent, we want to open up our own store at some point for our local community. Okay. So that
Nice.
was why we got together. And then we just started figuring out how we can actually start this train going. Because you can't just, I mean, for anyone who's ever run a business, it takes a whole lot of time and effort, and it's not something that's
Hmm.
going to happen right overnight. So, like, all right, so let's start developing a community. So we decided to start making content. And one of the first things that we started doing was we did a podcast, and we didn't really know what exactly we wanted to focus on, but we knew we loved card games. And so we wanted to really revolve it all around card games. So we did the podcast, and then we started doing pretty soon thereafter is because we knew we didn't want to focus on Magic, but we have a big background in Magic.
Hmm.
But we didn't want to do Magic content. So we started doing villainous content because
Right.
it
Right.
was Disney. It's kind of a card game. And dude, let me tell you, Jim loves villainous so much. He like loves that game. Jim, why don't you tell everybody how much you loved absolutely just playing that game, dude?
Yeah, I love it.
So,
All right,
so
all right, all right.
yeah, yeah,
Although there are some characters I do like to
yeah,
play,
for sure.
but
Hmm.
if we're talking about trying to make content I can't just keep playing those characters over and over.
Right.
Dan's not going to want to keep losing on turn 4 to the Queen of Hearts, okay? He doesn't want
True.
to.
True. This is true. This is true.
So,
Now we kept doing it and we kept playing villainous because there's a lot of things that we could do there. And we
Hmm.
didn't really know what to do. I didn't really totally know what to do. And then we started doing other things. And I remember I brought to Jim, I'm like, all right, let's start doing some other things that's not villainous. And literally this is Jim. He's just like, oh, thank goodness. I'm like, wait a minute. What? I didn't
I
know
thought
he
you were
like
having a
hated it.
blast.
I didn't know
Yeah.
he hated it,
and
dude.
at some point, Dan was like, "I just don't want to play this anymore." Oh man, what
The
was
whole
it? I
table
think
flip
it
kind
was
of thing.
I
Yeah.
think it was when one
Was it
of
here
us
to
was
slay? Wasn't here to
playing
slay.
the
Was it?
Incredible Kid. What's his
Oh,
name?
wait,
Oh,
wait. You're talking about
Dash.
villainous? You're talking about
Yeah,
villainous?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
I think like that
Yes.
was the last time where you
Syndrome.
were like,
Oh,
"I'm done. I'm
that's
done with
Yeah.
because
this game."
that's because Syndrome was
Oh my
a
goodness, man.
terrible character to
Why
play.
why would they have like
It
two
was,
board wipes in your
dude, I
fate
don't know,
deck?
man.
Oh
It was so
no.
dumb. Yeah,
Why is that a thing?
it was Syndrome and Lotso. Those were the two. And dude, anybody can go watch this video. It is still on our channel. If anybody wants to go watch me get literally humiliated, and I was so annoyed. It was terrible.
It was
And
like
I
the
remember,
first time I remember the first time we read it, and I was like, huh, yeah, I'm gonna pick that card.
yes,
Yeah.
Like it didn't even matter what the other one was.
no, it
Dan read
didn't.
that. I'm
It
like,
Yeah.
didn't.
okay, that.
Hmm. I blame you. Yeah, it was a
Wow.
perfect thing to do. So yeah, so we kept going through some other stuff, and then we started doing some trading card game content.
Hmm.
But we didn't really have a niche. I knew what I was good at. Like I'm good at like videography, photography. I'm good at
Hmm.
that kind of thing. And so I remember when Lorcana was announced, I specifically remember when I read the article, I was like, huh, all right, because I saw Ravensburger was doing it. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't really know how good this is going to be because our biggest complaint with
Right.
Villainous was they don't know how to template cards and they can't really write these
Yeah, that's
cards
a
the right
problem.
way. It was a
Hmm.
big, big problem. So I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And then, like, but regardless, I was intrigued because I love Disney. I mean, we did, a ton of Villainous content.
Hmm.
And the more I learned about it and started reading, and then when I saw who they were hiring, who was heading it up, I'm like, okay, these people actually have, like Stephen Ryan, they have
Yeah.
legitimate TCG experience. They know how to design good a card game. So it's like, okay, maybe this will actually be something. And then, we're TLDR, here we are. So like that's pretty much like it's
And
just
now we know how to play the game.
and now we know how to play the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our biggest thing from day zero, I remember we were like, nobody knows how to play the game, and we're all trying to talk about it, but nobody
Right.
knew. Everyone was pretending they knew, and our
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
biggest thing, our biggest thing that we just said, and everybody made fun of us, but it was, dude, we don't know how to play the game. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Well,
that's
and
and here we are.
those early days, it was like, well, here's the game. This, this is kind of what the cards look like. We're not really sure what the mechanics are. And, yeah, you and like Citizens of Lorcana and, a couple other podcasts and stuff that were out there from the very beginning. Y'all all had that same problem. Everybody was like, it sounds really cool. We have no idea how to actually play it,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
we're
Yeah,
still gonna make up content, which personally I think is pretty impressive to be able to actually talk for, 30 minutes to an hour about a game you have no idea how to actually play is pretty
yeah.
impressive, I have to say. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, and honestly, like a lot of it just comes from playing card games for a long time. Like
Mhm.
there's only so many things you can do differently. Like if you look at a card, like we're experienced enough in like templating and we kind of know what to look for. Like the cost, like that was obvious. The biggest thing that was I was so intrigued with at the beginning was the flourish. Well, like we called it the flourishing symbol. We didn't know
Yeah.
exactly what it was, but it's the
oh,
inkwell.
the ink,
And
yeah. Hmm.
we didn't, we're like, what in the world does that mean?
Yep.
And I think at one time, I'm pretty sure somebody called that correctly. We did a video of like guessing what all these things were. We called a lot of the things.
Yeah.
Oh, we called a lot of it. Like locations, I remember talking about locations. We're
Hmm.
like, I said locations are going to be in it, and then we didn't see it for a couple sets. I'm like, told you,
I thought it was
I called that.
stadiums.
Yeah,
Vindicated.
right,
Yes. Yep.
right, right. Yeah. So there's only so many things you can do differently in honestly like any trading card game.
Yeah.
But I was still very impressed with like what Steve and Ryan were able to do with this game. So yeah, it was really interesting being in it from the get-go.
Hmm.
So yeah. So
Yeah. Nice. Nice. Yeah, and y'all pivoted a little while back. I say a little while, it was probably almost a year or so, from doing the other games and other kinds of content to just specifically Lorcana.
mhm.
Was it just because you had that niche and you really enjoyed that one thing, or was it just a decision that, like you said, just focus on one game and that just happened to be the game that y'all wanted to pick?
What would you say, Jim?
Hmm. It's kind of hard to say exactly and specifically when we decided to, which
Hmm.
I think it was after Gen Con of the release. We
Yeah,
decided to kind of like go all in on it because
yeah.
we were around everyone that whole weekend. We were
Hmm.
playing so much of the game and we were kind of just like, this feels right.
Hmm. Yeah,
Nice.
Um,
yeah.
yeah, it was sometime around there.
I think you're right on because like I specifically remember Gen Con and like we had the big get together like with a lot of other creators
Yeah.
and people in the community.
Hmm.
Got to meet Steve and Ryan.
Mhm.
And that was it, like it was really great. And we have a lot of fun stories actually from that Gen Con with Steve and Ryan.
Yeah.
Um and I think it was because we had so many conversations. Like Jim and I, we had a ton of conversations there. And I remember it, like even the ride back, we're like, okay,
Oh yeah.
it felt so like Jim was right. Like the atmosphere was very, very different from
Mhm.
ever since we've been in any TCG. I've never seen so many people like that excited for a TCG at Gen Con nonetheless. Because Gen Con
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
not for TCGs. Like it's not. You don't go to Gen Con to promote a TCG because board game, like Gen Con's for board game people for the most part. And like for the most part, board gamers they put their noses up at trading card games and TCG players
Yeah.
for the most part, right?
Okay.
So I was very surprised at the reception at Gen Con. So when we decided to make that decision, like there was a lot of things that went into it. Um, like the biggest thing for me was just like there's just so many things going on And I
Hmm.
think it's a whole lot easier, especially on YouTube, to niche down. And then when you're doing content specifically over one thing, it helps promote you in the algorithm a little bit. But also it just really helps you in whatever community I guess you're being a part of as well. Because then you're
Yep.
not splitting your time. And then like for us, like I got full-time jobs. Like I have a family that I got to take care of. I have so many things. I don't have all this time to create content. I have a little window to create content, which and I enjoy doing it, but it makes more sense to just do one thing and like try to stay consistent at that. Because if I can't stay consistent at one thing, dude, I can't be able to be consistent over multiple things,
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to
Yeah.
content.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, villain is on Wednesdays, and we're
Yeah,
gonna have DC Deck Builder on Monday, and then
right,
why? Well, what about still the
Right.
podcast we want to maybe
right,
do, and
right.
then anything else, and then people are like, oh, hey, you haven't played this game in a while. Well, I
Yeah,
don't know when we're getting back to that game.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why, and that's a big reason why we dropped doing the podcast. We put the podcast on a big
yeah,
break, and
Hmm.
even now I'm realizing, dude, even trying to do two things regularly, only two things, multiplayer madness and our podcast is still hard. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's tough. It is tough to do when you have all these other things going
yeah,
on. And so another reason we dropped the podcast, like I had another kid on the way. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
dude, I
That would
can't,
do it.
like, just, I can't do it, dude.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot, but the other thing too is like I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and if I'm creating
Mhm.
content, it has to look like my bar is here. If
Yeah.
I don't meet that bar, I feel like I've let myself down. And so I'm always trying to clear that bar of like high production quality. And so like, is that necessary, needed? No, it's not. But I think as a creator, we all do it to some extent.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm always looking to improve, and like that constant drive to be better and improve, it honestly it can take a toll, and you can just like, when does that end? When does that
Yeah.
end?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like there's a lot. So it made things a whole lot easier to just focus on one thing. And
Yeah.
honestly, it's probably the best decision we've ever made because this game's a ton of fun. I love the IP. It's a game that I can share with my kids and my family, and they enjoy it too. So it was honestly, I think this is probably the single best decision that we've made just for ourselves and our channel. And it's been great. Like the ride's been fun and it's not over.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I do have to say, you mentioned the production quality. It is outstanding, I have to say. Do you have experience in like content creation or videography or anything and before this, or was this kind of
Uh
the first foray into that?
Jim, what you got a ton of experience, don't you?
oh yeah, let's just go back to that episode 2 where I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like, I can't move, Dan. I can't move at all.
I remember that fondly, Jim.
Yeah, that was great, man.
So
Yeah.
I have been into photography and videography for a long, long time. I honestly can't even
Okay.
remember the first time I really started getting interested in photography. And so my interest started with photography, and then that just basically took me to all of these other things.
Mhm.
I'm an engineer by trade, and so I have a very technical mind. I remember early on, a long time ago. Um, Being technically minded, I was always worried about the creative side because like your creative side and your technical side of your brain, they're two completely opposite ends of your brain. And so
Mhm.
I tend to focus more with the technical side, and I didn't use a lot of the creative side, and I was scared to at first. But when I started engaging that part of my brain and the muscles, it's so much fun. And so for me, that comes out through photography, video, creating things, and really just creating content in general. And video games a little bit too. So the more I'm able to do that, it really helps. It helps my brain activity, to be honest with you, and just those muscles. It's fun just squeezing those muscles and really diving into that process.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, for me, it started a long time ago. I've always loved photography, and then it just grew into everything else. Like, once I started having, more disposable income, I started. I mean, all I have a ton of gear, and like anyone who's in part of my communities, they're always like, man, Dane's got so much gear. Yes, but it's stuff I've accumulated over years. I
Hmm.
like literal years, like a decade plus of I have lights, I have so many cameras, I have all these different things because I knew at some point I wanted to start, making content. And then I just started doing it. And then the more that I did, the better I got. And then you just have to start doing it. It is a process, it's an iterative process.
Hmm.
The biggest thing that I struggle with at the beginning was just starting to do it because like, I don't really know what I'm doing. Nobody knows what you're doing at the start.
No, no.
And so the more you do it, you're going to get better. You're going to learn. You're going to mess up. You're going to learn. You're going to do it again. It's a whole process. It's a cycle, but you just got to get in it and do it. And then you're just going to get better.
No.
And so, yeah, I've just taken everything that I've learned over the years and I'm still learning. I'm still growing. But I've been really happy with my process and, the progress, even though like sometimes I feel like the numbers don't show it. I don't really care. Like I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So,
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. And
one thing I was gonna say,
oh,
one thing
go
for
ahead.
myself as
Yeah.
well. Before we started doing this, I was doing a little bit of content creation for like MMORPGs.
they're
Mhm.
still on the channel, by the
They're
way.
still on
They're
the channel,
still on the
guys.
channel, dude.
And so like I did that, but it's a bit different for me
Mhm.
of creating content like that, videos, and then live streaming. Like I
Yep.
prefer when I was doing it solo to live stream 100% versus make a video about something because I have the chat to pretty much feed off of and have topics and talk about
Hmm.
certain things, and I'm kind of just not sitting there essentially talking to no one. You
Right,
know,
right.
if you're making a video, you're essentially talking to no one. But then, when Dan and I started doing this stuff, well, I now have this person to feed off of and
Hmm.
interact with. Um, but it was a completely different setup than, if I had a microphone on my headset or a microphone like this versus, something I was holding or, in our first couple, I was like, I can't move. I just want to stay here perfectly. I'm like, don't breathe too much either, Jim.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Like hyper aware of everything. And yeah,
Yeah.
no, I get it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yeah.
I definitely have grown the last couple of years as well.
And you definitely have. And the only other thing that I'll say too is that type of content, it's all different. Live streaming
Yeah.
is extremely different than recording yourself and doing a produced video. Doing anything where it's produced, it's a whole lot more work. Jim don't want to do that work, guys. He doesn't want to do it. Like you got a
Busy that day.
script. You got a script. You have to have an idea in your head of exactly what you want to do.
Hmm.
Um, and like it's hard.
It
It's
is.
hard. Anybody can do it, but it's hard.
Yeah.
Um, and you don't know that you can do it until you actually do it, but they're very, very different things. And it's just like anything. Like anything that's worth doing is going to be hard.
Oh
Anything worth
yeah.
doing is going to be hard. If you let that scare you off, you're never going to get anywhere in life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in content creation, that's in anything. If you just let it scare you off, you will never get anything done. You have to get over that hurdle, and that's only something that you are going to be able to get over yourself. You can have all these externalities pushing you to do it, but you have to make that choice to jump over that hurdle and do it and fail because you will fail.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's okay. And that's the best thing that's going to happen to you. Is the best thing you can do is fail. Why? Because you're going to learn from it. The best teacher in all of life is failure, and no more, and that is no more so than it is in content creation. And
Yep.
so, my biggest piece of advice to anybody, just do it. You're going to fail. It's okay. You're going to
Just
learn from it and then
do
get better.
it.
Just do it.
Do it.
Brought to you
Well,
by
and
Shiloh.
it's got to be nice for y'all to have each other to play off of too, right? So if
Mhm.
somebody's having a bad day or a low energy day or something, the other can kind of pick up the slack a little bit and kind of keep things moving and all that.
Mhm.
It's very rare
I
Dan has low energy day.
I
So,
kind of get that
so
impression. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Like I will tell you, Jim has come like so far in the past few years. I remember when we first started, I genuinely felt like I'm like, dude, Jim, you gotta freaking give me something, man. Like I can't do this. I need you to do something. I'm talking and Jim's just like, uh yeah, I agree.
You know,
Yes,
there were
that's
even
true.
some points in our podcast where I'm like, I bet I could go this entire thing without even saying a word. And I thought about
Or
trying it too.
hi and bye. That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's so much different now. Like Jim's grown. I've also grown too, where like the great thing about doing it with somebody is like you're gonna learn that other person, and then
Mhm.
all right, I'm gonna bring them in to do this little bit, and I know exactly what to say to get them to say something. When we first started doing it, I didn't really, excuse me, I didn't have that. Like I wasn't sure what it was gonna take to bring Jim in and to get him involved. And so it was a struggle at times when we were doing the podcast initially and then doing videos, but it's amazing what time can do and like how some people can grow over time. And
Mhm.
Jim's come a long way to like in every aspect of like the production side. It's been pretty cool.
Nice. Nice. Well, and I do want to talk about one of the more recent things that y'all have started on the channel. I guess it's been going for a little while now, the multiplayer madness.
Mm-hmm.
Those are super fun episodes. I love watching those. And it's
Good.
great to see like the diversity of the people that you bring in too.
Mhm.
You had was it Steve that you had on relatively recently, Steve Warner? And
Yes.
then
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a couple episodes ago now or something,
Uh-huh. Yep.
um but yeah, it's really cool to see all these people come together and it's not just like sitting down and interviewing or, doing a live stream or something like that. It's actually playing together and enjoying the game together, which is
Mm-hmm.
such a key factor to a game like this, to be able to actually share that experience with each other and then take that and share it with a wider audience as well,
Uh-huh. Yep.
is really cool. And I appreciate that y'all have kind of gotten into that because it's really not anything that anybody else is doing. There might be
Nope.
multiplayer episodes every once in a while on some of the other channels, but to have something consistent like that and, not the usual one-on-one gameplay kind of stuff like, Lorcana is usually played. Seems like multiplayer kind of gets pushed off to the side, but it's cool to see it spotlighted that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we've been playing multiplayer card games for a long time. Like we've both Jim and I have played a lot of Commander, and we were
Mhm.
just talking about this the other day. I can't remember the last time I played Magic. I genuinely cannot
Magic
remember.
Con?
Yeah, probably. I don't think I've played
Probably.
since then. And when was that? Oh, dude, because that's when we were there helping out Josh and Jimmy.
Yeah.
That's right. That was the
I
last
don't
time.
remember when
Dude,
that
that's been
was.
a long time, dude.
That's
But
bad.
like that was when we played a ton of Commander and like we
Mhm.
love doing that. And
Mhm.
Commander is the most played format in all of Magic the Gathering, bar none. Um, there's
For
a
a
reason
reason.
for there. What'd you say, Jim?
I said for a reason.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And we see that and we're like, and there have been other people who see it too. And they're like, we would be foolish to not see that and jump on the bandwagon for lack of a better term. Okay.
Mhm.
Multiplayer card games are a what's the word I want to use? I was gonna say like singular experience, but that's not the word that I'm looking for. It is a very unique experience that is not 1v1. And
Mhm.
Lorcana is just like every other trading card game from the standpoint of when it's new and which Lorcana still is. Lorcana still is in its honeymoon phase.
Oh yeah.
I think it's gonna be in the honeymoon phase for at least another year, maybe even another additional year. I mean, Flesh and Blood dude, Flesh and Blood's been out for like 5 years now, I think. Like they've been out. I think it's been 5 years. Don't quote me. I'd have to look on that. But I remember I saw that recently. I'm like, it's really been that long. But Flesh and Blood, it's the same thing where when it just came out, all people are doing is it's competitive, 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 because
Hmm.
that's where like the competitive players flock to it, and then they're the ones creating content, and it's all competitive. And then the only different thing about Lorcana is there's a lot of newer TCG players into the TCG fold, which is great.
Yep.
Any game that can bring in a larger or wider audience is always a good thing. Um, but the other thing that's different about Lorcana is I think a lot of this also stems from the IP,
Hmm.
number one, but part of that grows off of it is the newer audience. Newer audience, they're typically more casual. Okay.
Yep.
I don't know if some of them would say it, but I will say it. Like they are generally more casual, and you can see it from the things that are being said and the way they're playing, and which is fine. Like that's not a bad thing. And many of them want to get into the competitive scene, which is great as well.
Hmm.
And it's also nice seeing a game where the barrier to entry into the competitive scene is so low. But that's where everybody's focus is. I'm curious when that's going to die down. And when that does, we're going to be here with all of our multiplayer content. There
Right.
is a
Right.
reason. There's a reason Commander is the most played format in all of Magic the Gathering. There's a reason for it. It's fun. It's creative. Like it is the most fun format that can be had by more than two people.
Hmm.
Um, and so I feel like we would be fools to not try to do something like that for Lorcana. One of the biggest things I hear from a lot of folks is, man, I get to sit down and play with my wife and two kids. Yeah, you can do that in multiplayer. Like if you're at
Yeah.
home and you just
Yeah.
got like you're just one on one, what's the other kid supposed to just sit by and just watch?
Right.
No,
Right. Yeah.
like no,
Yay. Cheer
right?
you
Go
on. That's
dad,
it. Yeah.
go
Good
dad.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
So
razz you for playing a bad card, you know.
yeah, right, right.
Misplayed,
Um,
misplayed.
There you go.
Misplay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So I'm excited to see where the multiplayer formats are going to evolve over time, but we want to be there because again, we've been doing these types of formats for a long time. And there's a reason I feel like I'm beating a dead horse and just saying this over and over, but there is a reason why they're so popular.
Hmm.
And this game, Disney Lorcan, is literally screaming to have this type of format for the community. And I'm amazed that there's not more people trying to not only just create that kind of content, but to really just play these types of games. It's just everybody
Hmm.
flocks to the 1v1, which and like we were at DLC Chicago, because like that's where we're from.
Right.
We didn't play. I played zero events. Zero events. I
Mhm.
we came. I How many decks did we bring? I think I brought like 8 decks. Multiple
All of them? I
specifically
think all of them. Yeah, it was about eight.
specifically multiplayer for multiplayer. And so we're
Right.
like, hey, let's play multiplayer. We're handing out decks out, let's play, and then we're just continue swapping it out, having a great
Nice.
time. And that's what we were doing. But everybody, not everybody, but there's most people are concerned about competitive formats. And like that's great.
Right.
I enjoy playing that too, but I think I my hot take is multiplayer is where it's at. Like that's just
Yeah.
it's
There's a funny story about that. What is it? DLC? I hate calling it that because I'm like, no, it's not downloadable
downloadable
content.
content. I know
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I
literally
know.
what I
It's the same.
think.
Yeah.
Like DLC, yes.
Hmm.
Funny story. I was going to sell some cards when we were out there, and I remember seeing this one dude hanging out by his friend who worked at the place, and he would like look at me every now and again. I, look over at him randomly just because I'm like, I noticed some dude staring at me, right?
Yeah.
And so after a little bit, um, he's like, "Hey, aren't you that other guy in Hobbies and Happiness?"
That's right.
And I'm like, "Man, I
I'm
created
the
this. Do you know
guy.
how much I've sacrificed?" Um,
The
and
other guy. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
love that stuff.
so it was just funny introduction. So like we started talking a little bit, and then that was I want to say the first day, and then randomly the second day, um, Dan comes across the person or he comes across us again, and we're laughing about that interaction. And he's hanging around with us for like hours while we're just sitting at a table, a side table, with other people crowded around. We're playing multiplayer games. We're having a
Hmm.
great time. And you look at every other table around us because we're in that main hall with all the competitive players in there. And it
Right.
looks like, there were probably people having a good time, but it's like a completely different atmosphere
Oh yeah.
than
Yeah.
what we were having.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Drastically
Yeah.
different.
Everybody's sitting there at the table like,
Okay, all right. This,
I
okay.
gotta play that. I
Super
gotta play.
serious,
Like that's what it is. And then by the way, we're just all like,
We're dying laughing, over
Right.
random
Right.
stuff.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and
Nice.
towards the end of it, because his friends were still in the tournament, so they'd come by us randomly.
This is the guy whose friend got second, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Okay.
That's so cool.
So
So
they'd
cool.
come around us randomly, we're just all having a good time. And at the end of everything, as we're leaving, the dude's like, "This is the most fun I've had here.
Yep.
Just
That's
sitting here
awesome.
Yeah.
hanging out." And I
Yeah.
don't even
Yeah.
know if he played a multiplayer game with us,
No, he didn't play at
Yeah.
all.
but he was just having a good time watching all the craziness happen inside of this
Hmm.
game. It
Yeah.
was such a
Yeah.
blast.
And
Such a
So,
that's
blast.
literally what it's about, dude. Like for real. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
do y'all think that that's kind of due to the the less, I guess, less competitive nature of playing multiplayer, that it's not the pressure of one person playing one person and you're really trying to win. I mean, obviously in multiplayer you're still trying to win, but it's a little bit
Mhm.
more, it seems more casual, more
More of a social
friendly kind of
aspect.
thing. Yeah, the social aspect
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
huge.
because right, that's in most multiplayer formats, generally speaking, the focus is on social play. One of the things that came
Mhm.
from the D23, well, they had a D23 panel a few months ago, and they were talking about what was it? It was Disney Lorcana Quest. Okay.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
specifically remember now I wasn't there. I just saw I talked to some folks and then I was able to see the video. And Rochelle was talking about Quest and she was bringing up the casual versus competitive side. Like she didn't specifically say casual versus
Mhm.
competitive, but casual v competitive has been a topic that has been in trading card games literally for all time. Okay. And the fun slash funny thing about Lorcana is a lot of new faces into these spaces having these conversations for the first time, thinking these are all new conversations. Like none of these conversations are new. We've been having these conversations for a very, very long time. Two-game format, this is nothing new. This has been
Mhm.
tried before. This is not a phenomenon of, oh, it's the first. No, none of this stuff is new. It's new to you, which is fine. And I'm always fine having these conversations with people, but I view it the same way as history. Like all this stuff has happened. Let's learn from the past and figure out what happened in the past, and then how can we apply it to today, for example. Okay. Um, and so what was I even talking about? I'm getting off on these so many different tangents, dude. It's absolutely it's crazy. Oh, dude, seriously, help me out, guys. What the heck was
Next
I?
question.
Social aspect of
There we
multiplayer
go. Yes,
there.
there we go. Goodness. My word. So yeah, that's right. So Rochelle was talking about Quest and talking about competitive formats, and then when she started talking about Quest, she said social format. I'm like, that is great because the
Mhm.
conversation around competitive versus casual, it's been viewed. When you say that, it's like it's in a negative context, but rarely do we mean it in a negative context. It's just the
Mhm.
bucket that we these are the words that we put the labels on the buckets where we put people, right? Oh, you're casual player, we're going to put you here. Competitive over here. But instead of saying casual, we're calling it social, which makes sense because for the most part, anyone who's preferring to play in a casual environment, they're doing so mostly, I feel like mostly because they want that social, excuse me, they want the social aspect more than the
Mhm.
competitive aspect. They value socializing with the community versus competing with. They still want to compete. Everybody does. Again, like any of these forms, everybody still wants to win.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it's
the
still a
the
game
high
in the end,
correct.
right?
the
Yeah.
hierarchy of values of what they're wanting to get out of it is different. If you're
Yeah.
in competitive format, it's no holds barred. I'm going to play the best deck. I'm going to play the deck that's going to give me the best chances of winning, period, bar none. In a social format, I'm going to play something that I want to play because it's fun
Hmm.
and it's going to allow me to have a good time, right? Yes, I still want to win, but there's other things that I'm focusing on and valuing more than just winning the game. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is, to me, that is the heart of any multiplayer format. Okay. Now in Magic, in Commander, there's CEDH. You get these very competitive players, and we've even had them on Multiplayer Madness. What are they trying to do? They want to win by any means necessary. You have people who will come on your show and they will say, I'm gonna have everybody discard the cards. I'm gonna have all the fun. I'm gonna have all the cards, and nobody else is gonna be able to do anything about it, and I am going to win. Dude, that's not fun. Nobody
No,
wants to
no.
do that. But is that an effective strategy? 100%. Is that a way that's going to get you the victory? Absolutely. Is that a viable competitive strategy? You bet. It's not fun to play against in a
Yeah. Yeah.
non-competitive type of format, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's always fun playing with those types of players, isn't that right, Jim?
Yeah, yeah, it's so much fun.
Well,
Just
okay,
recently, I even had to step up and be like, "Hey, yo, we're not doing this. We're not doing this today."
it is fun though, getting those players out of that mindset and the shell.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Right. Because it is a mindset. The mindset of I'm going to do whatever I need to win versus I'm just going to have fun with the table. And
Yeah.
I tell you,
Yeah.
I have way more fun when I'm messing around with the table. I mean, I have the most fun when I mess around and I win. But what comes right after that is I just mess around and have a ton of fun with the table. Right. Like that is more fulfilling to me. It's most fulfilling, like I said, when I have fun and then I also win. That's peak.
Of
That's
course.
peak.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's very fulfilling when like everybody steps away and it's like, dude, we just had such a that was a fun time. Like, thanks for just hanging
Yeah.
out. It was a blast, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. And we get to do that with cards with Disney characters on it. I mean, yeah, sign me up, dude.
I know,
It's
right?
fun.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's so interesting to see, the different dynamic because I went to the DLC in Atlanta, and for the most part, most of the people that I sat across from on the competitive side of things, were open and friendly, and we're just having conversations and stuff. And you see them later, and you just met them that morning, but it's like, oh hey, how's it going? Everybody's pretty socially friendly.
mhm.
But then, yeah, you definitely get those people that they're there to play. That's what they're there for, and that's it. And and I understand that mentality, and I get that that's the competitive mindset that some people have. But I feel like if you're playing a TCG, the whole point of it is to be social. That's like you know, there's the game itself, right? The mechanics and the, everything around it. But then you have to have that social aspect because without that, you don't really have a game. I mean, at least in my opinion, I don't know
Mhm.
if I'm making sense, but
No,
um,
no, it makes sense. And honestly, that's part of the reason why Flesh and Blood became a thing. Like
mhm,
that when that came out, the whole tagline was this is a game you get to play in the flesh and blood. Like
mhm,
that was the whole part of the reason of why that game came about. And they're immensely successful as a game. But the only thing that I would say is like all of these games are different things to different people. And that's why it's important to me that there are different formats because not everybody just wants to sit down and play core constructed, right?
mhm.
Having these different formats, I don't care if it's official or if it's fan made. There's literally no difference between a format that's official and one that's fan made. It's just different ways to play the game, and
Yep.
everybody enjoys these games very differently. Like a format I'll tell you that I'm excited to play is heroic. Like that is a format that
Yeah.
I'm excited to sit down and play, build some decks. I love brewing. I love building decks. Um, and I'm excited to play all these different ways because each different way to play is a different experience. And so you have these different one-on-one, 1v1 experiences, and then you get to multiplayer, and it's a completely different bag. And that is where I tend to excel, and that's where I really enjoy it, is when you have more than one player, because there's so many different things that can happen in any
Because
multiplayer.
Yep.
Dan doesn't want to
Yep.
verse me all day. That's exactly why he refused.
Well, and
I
it's
I,
cool
I
to
beat him too
see.
much.
It's cool to see in, in Lorcana that they're actually building that kind of stuff in, right? It's not, the cards are not designed just for a 1v1 kind of thing, and multiplayer is like an afterthought. There's actually cards in there that are specifically, you can tell when you're reading them, they're designed to be played against multiple people all at the same time.
I will
Which,
say, I will say, if anyone ever designs a card like that and specifically says like they don't think about multiplayer, it's not designed the right way. It's a poor design. It is a very, very poor design, because then you are shutting yourself off, and then again you're also just you're turning down like different ways to play, and that's just not good design.
yeah,
In my opinion. Another
yeah,
hot take.
yeah. No, it's interesting. You hear people talking about. I think I was listening to the Lorcana Muses latest episode, their podcast earlier, and to hear people have preferences about outside of the usual 1v1 kind of thing. They're like, oh, I love limited draft. That's one of my favorite things to do, or multiplayer, because there were a lot of people when at the DLC that had never played multiplayer before. And so they were like, because they have the side events where that's specifically what it was.
Right.
And I went and participated in one of those, and some people were super uncomfortable, but some people really, really enjoyed it. They
Mhm.
were like, this is great. I love this so much more than, constructed and everything. And it's so cool to have different ways for people to come to this game.
Oh
Different
yeah.
levels.
I love taking somebody who's never played multiplayer, and
Hmm.
then like, because normally what will happen is you'll sit down, you'll start the game, you'll play normally, and then my favorite is, and this happens all the time, where they're like, okay, Dan, I'm gonna challenge into your thing, and then I just go, hang on, hang on one second. All right. So you see look at Jim. Look at what Jim has over there. You really want to try to challenge into this thing? You are going to get so much value. He has a Pluto over there. That Pluto has zero strength. You will take zero damage. And
Hmm.
then Jim will try to chirp in, and I'll just be like, just Jim, like, I'm making a valid argument, okay? Like, that's what's fun, getting people out of the thinking of, oh wait, there's multiple decisions here, and then,
Hmm.
all right, what are you gonna give me? What are you gonna give me? What are you gonna do for me? What are you gonna do for me?
Yeah.
Those are fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I think because I came into the game on set two. And some of the first stuff after I kind of got into it and was learning it, I got my kids kind of excited about it, and of course I was playing 1v1 against my younger son. And and that was fun, but then my older son was like, "Hey, can I play too?" And I was like, yeah, sure. Let's try the multiplayer format. And even then, even early on, it was a weird mental shift to be like, okay, now
Yeah.
I have to think about your cards and how you could interact with mine. And yeah, it's a weird kind of mental shift. And it's fun, in my opinion, to do that and to keep, it kind of keeps the game fresh, versus just always playing the 1v1 kind of thing.
It does, and it's also a break. When I'm playing
Yeah.
competitively, like if I'm playing in set champs, like I know my lines, I know my deck, I know my lines, but if I
Mhm.
have to think, my brain is on. My brain's on, and I'm like, okay, I have to critically think about what my line is to put me in the best possible place to win. When I'm playing multiplayer, I don't have to think like that. I mean, I kind of do, but I'm having fun, and I'm just
Mhm.
like, okay, now I'm gonna actually think about this completely differently. I'm not thinking super critically. While yes, I'm thinking along the lines of, okay, yeah, I gotta try and win here, but I'm gonna have some fun and start talking to people, and then maybe get them to do my bidding and say, hey, maybe you can do it. And then when I have people with less constitutions, be like, you can do it, and then I don't gotta get my hands dirty. It's like having a I don't know, like a mob or something. I don't know. It's kind of fun.
You're going
I
to
don't know
be a
what the word
mob
I'm looking
boss.
for. Yeah.
So I'm curious, as two folks that have played a lot of multiplayer games, obviously, um, what's the difference? Like, if somebody's looking to, build something for multiplayer kind of format, are there any kind of tips or things to look out for? I know like the difference between limited and constructed, there's differences in how you build decks between those.
Uh-huh.
How about multiplayer?
Dan and I were planning on making a video about this exact topic.
Well,
Yeah.
we did. We have a podcast episode about
Yeah,
it.
it was well, like we were saying in that one, it was more of like the super overview, but we didn't really get too in
Well,
depth.
it's going to be a like we're gonna do more
Yeah,
podcast episodes
yeah,
about it.
yeah,
Hmm.
But we were that was a like 10,000 foot view, but there's still some good stuff in there. There's still
yeah.
good stuff in
Still
there
good stuff. Still
for
check
sure.
it out.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah. I'll
Um,
I'll make sure and link it link it in the show notes too.
yeah, yeah. What so Jim, what would be some of your biggest tips?
Ooh, find something that you really want to build around that you normally don't see. Something just to be pretty creative, uh, just to get the juices flowing.
Yeah, like going off of that, build a deck. A lot of people have, well, I shouldn't say a lot of people, right? Because obviously there's the people who net deck. I net deck too all the time because like
Mhm.
again,
It's important.
if I'm going into a competition, like I want to have a good deck that's going to put me in a chance to win. Okay.
Right.
And then I have to think less about how to build it, right? But when you build it a deck, like that's fun in and of itself. Okay.
Mhm.
But in doing multiplayer formats, you are able to get away with building something that's kind of fun and quirky, and you're
Hmm.
still gonna have a good chance of potentially winning because you have more than one opponent, which means your opponents have more than one opponent.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So because your opponents have more than one opponent, you have teammates essentially who can help you on your way to potentially win. So if you are slacking off, your teammates can be there to pick it up, right? Even if they're not your teammates, quote
The
unquote,
Right.
right?
enemy of my
They
enemy.
could be
Yeah,
convinced, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Enemy of my enemy. Correct. Um, and so when you're able to do the thing, everybody you know what I mean when I say my deck just did the thing. It did the thing that I wanted it to do. It feels so good. Like it feels really, really good. Like you have one card that you just really want to build around. And then when you're able to do the thing, you're just like, all right, I can go home. I feel great. I was just able to pull off some crazy 10 lore swing. I gained 10 lore off of healing with Grand Pobby. It was like so great. Like it feels very, very good. And then like if you actually win, like that's a whole other feeling too. Um
Hmm.
so you can build a whole lot differently than you would if you're just playing core constructed. Now, building for multiplayer is still a little bit different because like it's more important like board presence. Again, go check out that video, but board presence is huge. You need card draw and you need a way to deal with items. Like those are going to be like your biggest things, but card draw is huge.
Hmm.
And like aggro is a thing in competitive formats, 100%.
Yeah.
Aggro is less of a thing in multiplayer formats, but it's more viable than other games because of the way Disney Lorcana is.
Hmm.
Like multiplayer Lorcana is so crazy because it's a race and it's just like it's unlike any other card game that I've ever played in a multiplayer setting. Because like you can get up to 17, 18, and then your opponents have to have the answer every turn after that. But the good thing
Hmm.
is you have your teammates at that point. Um, so the biggest thing that I would say is card draw. You need to have card draw. Like really, like it's really important in multiplayer. Like really big.
All right. Cool. Makes sense.
Oh yeah.
So given that today is the Thursday before the Azurite Sea release, I do want to talk some about that. So, what are you guys looking forward to about the next set? Either constructed side or multiplayer side?
I think Jim's ready. Jim's
You
got
know,
something.
uh, I actually had this card pulled up on the side
You okay? I'm
from the
in.
start before we even started. Yeah, I had this
Uh-huh.
card.
What is it?
There's a specific card I'm really looking forward to.
Oh yeah.
Dan is also well, Dan. I don't even know if I told you about this one. I mean, we've talked
Oh,
about it, but whatever.
I'm
I
thinking what it is, but now you have me intrigued.
There's a couple cards, but this one I know Dan is also looking forward to because there's a deck that he has as a pet deck. So it's Microbots,
Yeah,
Yep.
an
dude.
item that you
Yep.
can just have any number. I
Yo,
love
dude.
those effects, man. I always
Yes.
love those effects.
Yeah.
And do some cool stuff with an aerial and Bell's house to reduce the cost even further. And kind of just pop off like
Yep.
crazy.
Yep.
And just super excited about the microbots. I love it.
Yeah. I'm surprised, Jim, that you are excited about microbots.
Dude, they're dope. There
The
was
fir-
another one. I just thought it might be a little mean. And all right. I'm talking about it. The
yeah.
7 drop, everyone discards their hand, or opponents discard their hands, right?
Oh
You're
yeah. Yeah,
you're
yeah.
excited about that card?
I'm gonna
Really?
tell you why. You ready
Okay.
for this?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Picture it.
Okay.
Steel Emerald. Okay. We're gonna
Yeah.
have Lady Tremaine to be able to get stuff back from the discard. Okay.
Okay.
Why
Get
that
action.
matters?
Get action back from discard.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
because
Okay.
we're also going to be playing the wheel effect. Why can't I remember its name?
Whole new world.
Whole
Yeah.
New
Yeah,
World.
yeah.
We're going to sing Whole New World and to hopefully get the 7 drop to then play it to have everyone else discard their cards. That's just what I want to do. I want a wheel
That's
and then everyone discards.
and that is Jim Morgan, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen. That is Jim Morgan.
Am
Um,
I going to win? Probably not, but it's going to
Yeah.
be fun.
It'd be fun to pull it off though. Yep. At least once. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah. I'm I think I think that's a poorly designed card. I do not like the design of that card. Um I despise it. I one of the things like discard decks are a viable strategy. They always have been. They always have been. But I don't like how hard they have leaned into
Oh my
discard
goodness. It's so
Mm,
for
much.
this game.
yeah.
I'm like, and they've gone so far as like they did it to themselves when they're like, oh, we're gonna errata Bucky. You wouldn't have to do that if you didn't lean so hard into this mechanic. Okay.
Hmm.
You just because it's an actual viable mechanic doesn't mean you have to go so sticking hard into it. So I, dude, I'm gonna tell you right now, they are going to ban this card. They're gonna ban it. They're gonna do something about it. I can almost guarantee you. I can almost guarantee you because there's gonna be people who are going to complain because it's no fun. It is no fun. Like it's not fun, and that's why they got rid of Bucky. Now Bucky is just way more efficient. The only saving grace about this is that it costs 7.
Yeah.
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 So
And
so
uninkable.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
Bucky inkable?
Yeah. I think so.
Bucky was
Yeah.
thinkable. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
he was. He was. So yeah, but that's all I'm gonna say about that. Like I've just and it's fun like it's funny that I say that because when I was playing Magic, I would totally play the mono black discard decks.
8 rack, Dan. 8 rack.
Yes. Oh, I would do it. I feel so dirty. I just, oh, it feels so bad, but it's so
Like
much
I
fun.
won, but at what cost?
Yes.
Yeah. I
Right,
sold
right.
my soul. Yeah.
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 Yeah, but yeah, 100% microbots. I'm interested to see how much I'm gonna do that, and then like, am I gonna get sick of it? No, I don't think I will, because it'll be fun. It's not. I don't think it's gonna be an actual meta deck.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to have fun with it though. I want to play different colors. I want to go blue red. I want to go blue Steel. There's a lot of blue purple, like you know, because from set one, Ariel was like my favorite card. That
Mhm.
was the card that I loved playing. I was so upset that I couldn't make it work from set one, but
He was
now, oh
upset.
dude, I was very upset. But now, man, we got some really good things.
Yeah.
Really good things with Azurite Sea. And then Chip and Dale, my goodness, dude. Like during your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may return a character card from a discard to your hand. Yeah, don't mind if I do. Like blue, yellow, sure.
Not a problem.
One, okay, not a problem. Because blue
Yeah.
has problems ramping, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Like,
So much trouble.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So Chippendale looks good. I think my
Hmm.
biggest one is, like I said, the microbots. I'm looking through like all these cards right now. Also Go-Go Tamago. That's kind of
Yeah.
disgusting.
Yeah. Looking forward to try to figuring that one out. That'll be interesting.
Goodness
The
gracious.
Yeah.
as of right now, probably my favorite card. I haven't even gotten to play with this card yet, but the Half Shark Maui, that that card
Yeah.
that card
That card
just
looks so
speaks to
sick.
me.
It looks so
Speaks to
sick,
me.
dude. That so seriously, that is a deck that I'm gonna have so much fun in multiplayer. That card, well, that card is gonna be great all over, like in
Uh-huh.
literally everything.
Mhm.
But particularly in multi, oh man, it's just gonna be so gross.
Ruby Amethyst, Dan. Ruby
I
Amethyst.
know, man. I'm interested to see if that's gonna be in any or many good meta decks. I'm
Mhm.
interested to see, but it's definitely gonna be in some multiplayer decks for sure,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. It's
The other thing that I'm super excited for that we finally see is targeted. It's not even
Lord Rain.
drain. No, it is
Well,
Lord Drain.
yeah.
Targeted Lord Drain. This is
Mm-hmm.
Thievery. Chosen opponent loses one lore, gain one lore.
Mhm.
So finally we get targeted Lord Drain because let me tell you what the thing about Lord Drain. You want to play a 4-hour game, just
Oh.
have multiple people play Lord Drain effects in
Hmm.
multiplayer.
Just
I
chip
I
back and forth,
I
back and
don't
forth.
I don't want to do that. I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
no desire to do that. We did it once, never again. Never again. Um, but oh goodness, it's gonna turn a 1 hour and 30-minute game into I kid you not, a 4-hour game, man. So I'm glad that we finally have targeted Lord Drain effects.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that.
You know
So,
the other card's pretty sick. That Wreck-It Ralph.
oh my goodness, dude,
Yeah, that one's
Which
pretty
one is
sick.
that?
the steel one,
Oh,
Ham
oh yeah, yeah,
hands.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
ham
yeah, yeah, that's
hands.
right.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness,
Quest for
um,
3.
so
Banish chosen item or location. Gain 2
Hmm.
lore.
it,
Doesn't even have to be yours.
nope.
Yep.
Oh, that's disgusting. John Silver is sick. There's one other one that I just saw. I do like the jumbo pop. Was it
Mm-hmm.
blue? No. Oh, okay. Oswald. Oswald's huge.
Oh yeah,
I
super
love.
sick.
I
Yeah,
can't.
yeah, that's gonna
Oswald's
be
gonna be.
interesting. Yep.
Oswald's gonna be
Mhm.
sick. The other thing that I'm excited that we finally have too are ink sinks. Cards where you can just continually put your ink in it and then get an effect. You don't have to exert it.
Hmm.
There was a Hero Hamada card that I saw. Oh, here it is. This one. Yeah. Hero Hamada Team Leader. You can pay 2 ink, look at the top card of your deck, put it either on the top or bottom of your deck. You don't have to exert him. I'm glad that we finally have those types of effects. Well, the templating for those effects, I should say.
Hmm.
So I'm excited for I'm so many of these things, but the biggest thing is microbots, dude. Like just microbots with yokai. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
So we
I
just
can
also
fully
don't.
expect to see that in a future multiplayer
a
episode
hundred
then.
percent,
Spoilers.
yes.
Spoilers.
Multiple different decks
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Also, I don't remember seeing this card, but Calhoun, I think that's how you pronounce that.
Oh
It's
my
a three
goodness.
two
This,
one for 2. Resist
yeah,
1. During
yep,
your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, gain 2 lore.
Oh,
yeah.
is that one of the soldier cards? Or I forget which one
Um,
that is.
Marine Sergeant, Sword Lord
Calhoun, Marine
Hero.
Sergeant. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's kind of really good. Just
Yeah.
pair her up with a grandfather clock,
Wow.
resist two on a
Yeah.
2-drop. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
That's so that's kind of nuts, dude.
Now I know that they don't really, it doesn't seem like they like hyper aggro, even though they made hyper aggro. But
Wait,
so
what?
many of their cards just kind of mess up hyper aggro decks.
Oh, you mean like Calhoun?
Yeah, yeah, so many cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the meta shapes up like for this set. It's kind of all over the place for a lot of this stuff, and there's a lot of really interesting things to play.
hmm
Mhm.
My biggest complaint is I know what is a set? Is this set five? Right,
Six.
set 5 or 6? Six.
Six. Yep.
We don't have any new mechanics. That's
Yep.
my biggest I'm really hopeful in next set they're actually going to do something different. Because there really isn't anything different here, if you ask me. Yeah, like they do have a cycle of cards that say on your turn when something is put into the inkwell, get effect. Like that's cool. I'm glad
Right.
we have Lord Drain, but it's nothing where it's like it's a new keyword or a really new
Right.
mechanic. And we're
Right.
gonna have to start seeing those things every few sets to keep things fresh and interesting. This
Yeah.
set isn't fresh and interesting to me. To me, it's fun. There's a lot of cool cards here. Don't get me wrong. I'm excited. Um, but there's nothing that is new, fresh, and exciting from a mechanic standpoint. And so
Mhm.
Hmm.
I think we're gonna need to start seeing some of those things come through in a couple of sets, if you ask me. What do you think, Jim? Do you think that's correct, or what do you think there?
I mean, there's definitely some cool stuff in here to
Yep.
be playing, but it's nothing drastically out of the ordinary, right?
Yeah.
Like
Kind
Oswald's
of
really cool because you can kind
modifications
of
to what's
just,
already there. And yeah. Yep.
yeah, yeah, like Oswald's really cool because you can just, essentially play off the top.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but, you know,
Oh, I'm
any
sorry.
other
Wait a
thing
minute.
right
No,
now?
we do have a new mechanic. Mill. It's not called
Oh,
mill, but
true. That is
we
Oh,
do
right.
have
yeah.
cards that
Mill.
actually do mill. So,
Yeah.
but the interesting thing is that's one, maybe two cards. I think there might be two.
Mad Hatter and an item, right?
Yeah, I think so. I'd have to double check. But yeah, I believe there's only two cards. Um, yeah. So okay. So there's the teapot. No room, no room. Exert it, pain ink. Each opponent puts the top card of their deck into their discard. And then the
Mhm.
Mad Hatter himself, eccentric host. Whenever this
Yeah.
character quests, you can look at the top card of chosen player's deck, put it on top of their deck or into their discard. Which, if you're
Mhm.
playing that card, let's be real, they're all going into the discard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So that is at least something new. But that's two cards. Like it's not like
Yeah.
a widely new
It's not
mechanic.
like locations or, something huge like that.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'm
So,
I'm I'm interested. I'm interested to see.
so I'm curious, what do you guys think would be a good next addition for a mechanic to add to the game?
Man.
Mm.
Big question. I know.
Yeah, something new to add to the game. Planeswalkers. Oh man. Um so it's funny. Jim and I had talked about this a while ago. Um, but a different type of item, like an equipment that you could
Mhm.
attach to a character that's not just an item. I remember having that discussion because Jim brought it up, and I said I don't think we would ever see it. But I
Mhm.
don't know, like that's something that I think we could potentially see. Like I would love to see a carpet where you have a character on the carpet, on magic carpet, because
Yeah.
that's like, that makes sense. Um, like honestly, just other. I'm gonna say permanents because again, like it's something I'm used to for Magic. We
Mhm.
have two different types of cards. It's right that sit on the field. No, I guess three
Three.
now with the
Yeah.
locations.
Yeah.
So we do have a decent number. But
Mhm.
those locations, yeah. I'd be interested to see another type of permanent that sits on the field.
Put this card into Inkwell, get an effect.
Oh, like when this card gets placed into your inkwell, get an
Yeah,
effect?
yeah.
Yeah, because they do
Aren't
they do have written in the rules like you have to show it to your opponent. So I
Uh,
don't that might be something. Also we're going to have to see at some point an exile effect, meaning cards get removed from the game. And the reason
Not
I'm
just
saying that is
discard.
because
Yep.
because Amber is leaning so heavily into getting cards back from your discard. And if you have zero way of interacting with that, other than we'll just put it into your deck,
mhm.
you can only do that in like one color. Number one. Number two, that still doesn't remove the problem.
Yeah.
hmm
There should be a way of completely removing that. So if we see that effect, Jim, what color is that going to go in? Oh, red.
Amethyst,
Red. It's going to go in
amethyst.
ruby. You think it's going to go in amethyst?
I
Really?
don't know, man. I'm
I
just
think it would. I think it would go in
thinking.
ruby. I think it'd go in ruby.
I could see it in Ruby. Yeah.
I can probably see ruby or steel. Yeah. So probably so
Yeah.
that I'm gonna say for me that would be my mechanic that I think would be a logical next step is removing cards from your discard. So they can't call it banish. They would not call it exile. I don't know what they would call it. Um, but I feel like
I don't know.
especially with this set, because I know I've already seen a ton of people talk really talk about Chippendale because that
Mhm.
Chippendale card is super sick, dude. It's really cool.
Hmm.
It's really cool. So yeah, that's what I would say. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, I could definitely see it. Um, because as of right now, it's really just put cards to the bottom of their deck
Yeah, bottom of the
or
deck.
put it
hmm
into the inkwell too.
Hmm.
Getting it into the inkwell essentially gets rid of it permanently unless they're
Right.
playing,
Let's play
Yeah,
Mufasa.
but
Mufasa.
it's still to their
More effects
benefit,
like that.
So
Yeah.
More
yeah.
effects like that also, please.
And there aren't too many ways to shuffle your deck.
Yep.
So
There's a few, not a ton.
yeah,
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
ton.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, yeah, as of right now, those are just like the hardest form of removal, I guess.
Right. Right.
Um, yeah, they're just gonna call it remove from play, remove from the game.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Keep it
I wouldn't be
simple.
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, but also that's 3 words. And thus far, they've been doing a pretty good job at templating and keeping and shortening phrases to like
Mhm.
1 or 2 words.
Yeah,
Remove from the game is too long. I think they would shorten that to something. That's what I would think.
Could
I'd
see
be
that.
interested.
Another keyword. Yeah.
I think this is something we're gonna see. I would be interested in what they would call it. So I'd be very surprised if we don't see something like this, to be honest with you.
All right. Cool.
I
Cool.
would need it.
All right. Well, I have a feeling that we could go for forever if if we kept talking,
Time
but
wasn't
I
time
do want
wasn't
to I do want to
right.
respect y'all's time. I do want to end with the 3 questions that I ask everybody. So first off, right now, favorite ink and card.
Favorite ink and card. Go ahead, Jim. Sounds like you got
Uh, yeah, I mean, this is easy for me. Amethyst goat,
that's
amethyst
yeah,
goat, man.
yeah, that
I
would
have
make sense.
no, I nothing else compares to how much fun I have whenever I'm playing amethyst. Nothing comes
Yeah,
close.
yeah. Huh. If I had to pick one, Jim, what would you think mine would be? What do you think?
Well, I mean, your favorite card has to be Ariel.
Yeah, it probably
I
is.
mean, we even brought it. Well, I guess you said from the first set is your favorite card, but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
when you're popping off with Ariel, I don't think you're having.
I'm never as happy.
Well, you do
I've
like
never been
Jafar as
happier.
well, though.
Oh, dude, that's actually hilarious too. The fact
That's
I
a
love
funny story, actually.
Okay, yeah. So real quick, this is a
Story time.
hilarious story.
Mm-hmm.
When Jafar striking Lucius was announced, we We talked about it on some video. I don't know if it was a podcast or something. And I went hard. I'm like, this is so
Dan is
bad. I
mad.
hate this card. Why? How could they ever make a card like this? I will never play it. And then I played it once and I go, okay, yeah, I actually kind of like
It's like, I
really
love
like
this card.
Like, yeah, well, I take that back. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
kept playing it so much at
Oh my goodness.
locals.
Every single week, yeah. Dan
Dude,
was like, I'm playing this.
it
I'm playing
was
this.
nuts.
It
So
got to a point where I'm like, I haven't played the deck. I really want to, but I'm like, Dan's having too much. I'm just gonna let him keep playing the deck. Whatever.
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited. I want to see how that deck's gonna go. I want to see how that's gonna look in this set.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I'm ever happier when I'm playing Ariel, who's a collector, and really popping off. Like
Yeah.
just being able to go from 5 to 20. Oh, it's beautiful. It feels
Yeah.
so good. It's so
Yeah.
great. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
another important tip to give people if you're going to play multiplayer. Be able to burst. Because when people are
Mm.
like, oh, look at their board, we know they have this. We're pretty sure they're not playing anything else that just
Yep.
randomly gives them lore. You have to be able to burst like that
Yep. That's
to
true.
end the game.
All right.
And you
Good
can
to
burst
know.
like
Good to know.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, cool. Okay, so next question. Favorite Disney movie and why?
Go ahead, Jim.
Frozen.
Okay, why? Why?
For myself, I am a big fan of winter. I like the snow. In a lot of games I play, I do a whole lot of ice magic as well to slow and control stuff down. And you know, the songs as well. I'm a big fan of the songs,
Hmm.
and just aesthetically, I'm a big fan of light blues as well. So it kind of just like hit every single part for me. Frozen
Nice.
is my favorite, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I have to stick with my classic Aladdin. Aladdin's been my favorite Disney movie for
Yeah.
forever. I wore out that VHS when I was a kid. Um, so I couldn't tell you why it was my favorite when I was younger, but now it's my favorite just because it was my favorite when I was younger. So I absolutely love that movie, and I remember I remember when the second and third ones came out, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I had to watch them, and I loved them. I loved two, Return of Jafar, and then three, Aladdin, King of Thieves. Just all of the Aladdin, and then the Aladdin TV show. So I was huge into Aladdin. If you ask me now, I would probably say Frozen 2. I remember my wife and I took our kids to see Frozen 2,
Frozen 2, not Frozen
Frozen 2
also, like the
or
first
Frozen
one.
also?
the
2.
sequel, the
Okay,
sequel,
okay. Yeah, I was
Frozen
gonna
2.
say.
Frozen 2, in my estimation, way better than the first one. Although the first one is still really good. It's such a good movie. But the second one, I took my kids to see. I remember so spoiler alert, okay, if you haven't seen Frozen 2, like
It's been out for like 5 years.
what are you Jim, you can't say that though.
What are you talking about,
You
Dan?
can't say that. Jim has seen Jim can count on one hand the number of Disney movies that he's seen, okay?
Okay.
So anyway, I my wife and I took our kids to see Frozen 2. And the moment that Anna I'm sorry, I say Anna, Elsa discovers her mom, like during that song, my wife and I are bawling. We're like crying with our kids singing that. So I'm like, oh my goodness, it's Elsa, it's her mom. We were crying. It was a good moment. So because of that moment, I'd probably say Frozen 2 now, but it still
Okay.
will never touch Aladdin.
Dan had a completely different experience than I did watching Frozen 2. I didn't watch it with my kids because I don't have any. I did not see it how he saw the movie. I was just like, I still thought it was a good movie. I just didn't think it was better than the first one because of
Yeah.
how much I love the
So
first
so
one.
here wait. I remember because I saw Frozen 1. I know we just keep talking. I'm sorry, but these are
No, no.
moments, guys. These are moments. Okay. I remember we went and saw the first Frozen with my wife's family. Um so a bunch of us were there. It was a packed theater. And the moment I remember this vividly, the moment you find out Hans is the bad guy, you hear audible. So
Hmm.
many, my mother-in-law sitting right next to me, I could hear her go. It was hilarious. Like
If
I didn't
only
see it
you
coming.
had
No, I
someone who would love you. If
yeah,
only.
such a cool moment. So funny.
Yeah.
So cool. So, yeah.
Nice. Nice. All right. Well, last question. Tell everybody where they can find your channel and you guys so that they can watch all your awesome videos and the multiplayer madness that ensues.
Sure. Yeah, so most of our content you can find us over on YouTube. Just search Hobbies and Happiness, and you'll find all of our content there. We're also on Twitter. The only social media I really do is Twitter. I don't have a lot of time. I run all of it, and I just randomly post stuff to Twitter. It's mostly, hey, we have something new, go check it out. So that's Twitter
Mhm.
at Hobbies and Happy. If you want to support us, you can join our Discord, which is linked in all of our videos. If you want to support us further than that, we also have a Patreon. That's patreon.com/hobbies and happiness. We have different tiers of support. We've got, actually, I have them right here. Hey, yeah, here we go. I got stickers. So if you want to get a sticker, you just join a certain tier on our Patreon. We also have these cool ink tokens
Mhm.
that we were a part of for series one. So this is our you can focus, you can do it. The Hobbies and Happiness ink token. So we give those out to the rare level. If you support us on the rare level or higher, you get that. Um, so yeah, you can find all that out on our Patreon. That's patreon.com/forward slash hobbies and happiness. And then I'm on Twitter at _ DG Campbell. I'm not on there a ton because I'm busy creating awesome content.
This is
For
So
you
true.
that's where
This is
guys.
true. Yep.
yeah.
Yep. No,
You can
and
find Jim. Jim, where can people find you? What do you
Yeah,
do?
you guys can find me on there, even though I post a whole lot less than everyone else in the world. On
The
Twitter
lurker.
at Jim Morgan H&H. I hope that's still it. I don't even
I
know
think
anymore.
yeah, I think so.
last
It's been a
post
while.
5 years ago. Yep.
All right, it wasn't that bad. Dang, dude.
No, no. Oh. All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you guys so much for spending some time with me tonight and chatting
Sure.
and talking all about the content and the, Azurite Sea and all this stuff. It's been great. I really
Talking
appreciate
all
you taking
about
the time.
talking all about the hobby that makes us happy.
Yeah, there you
Hey,
go. There you
there
go.
it is.
All right. Well, cool. Thanks, guys. And we'll see you around the community. Thanks for joining us on today's episode. If you liked what you heard, make sure to subscribe and rate or like us on your platform of choice. If you'd like to reach out to the show, you can email us at lorcanachats@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter or X at LorcanaChats, the podcast at podcast.lorcanachats.com, or just lorcanachats.com. We love feedback on the show, and let us know if there's anyone you'd like to hear from in the Lorcana community. See you next time.